Let's get started on this class opener, which is a review for the quiz. I mean, these exact type of questions, if not exact, will come out on the quiz tomorrow on section 2.1 to 2.3 quiz. So number one, it says 5 less than. So what we need to remember is less obviously means subtraction, but the word than implies a switch in the order. Okay, so let's put a subtraction sign. But you see this 5 right here? It's not going to go right here at the beginning. The than implies that this first one goes at the end. So 5 less than is really going to place the 5 on that side of the subtraction sign. Okay, now what belongs on the front side? On the front side it says 1/5 of a number. Okay, so let me circle that in blue. The 1/5 of a number, that's going to go on the left side. So what is 1/5? It's a fraction 1/5 of a number. That could be any variable you want. You could use x, you could use n, you could use a. I'm just going to use x. So 1/5 x minus 5, and now check this out over here. It says is, which we all should know means equals 2. So there you go. That is your equation. Now it says find the number. So what we should do is solve it. That's what they mean by find the number. Okay. So let's rewrite that equation. Let's go back to our train of thought when we solve equations. What's the goal of solving any equation? We need to get x by itself on one side. So on one side of the equal sign, that is. So here's the equal sign. X is clearly on the left side of the equal sign. It's definitely not by itself. There's a minus 5. There's a 1/5 right there. So let's get rid of that minus 5 by doing the opposite, plus 5. Now we do to one side, do to the other side to maintain the balance. That'll cancel out. 2 plus 5 is 7. Let me bring down the equal sign, bring down the 1, the 5th, and the x. So there's our new equation. And let's now get rid of that fraction. Remember, you could get rid of any fraction as long as you multiply everything by the denominator, in this case 5. Now, I need to multiply everything by the denominator 5. I could have gotten rid of the fraction right at the start, but that's not the smartest thing to do, because if you multiply by 5 here, you'd have to multiply this by 5, you end up with 25, multiply that by 5, you end up with 10. So it's a lot easier to just add 5, it cancels out. 2 plus 5 is 7, and now you have an easier equation, and it's easier to multiply everything by 5 because there's only 2 things here instead of the original 3. Anyhow, let's continue. The 5 and the 5 cancel out. We end up with 1x, you don't have to put the 1. Bring down the equal sign. 7 times 5 is 35. So my answer to number 1 is this equation. You have to write the equation correctly. And the answer is x equals 35. Now if you wanted to double check it, you could take that 35, plug it back in, and say 1/5 times 35. You could even do this on the calculator. In the calculator you could put parenthesis 1 divided by 5, close parenthesis, and then times 35, and then minus 5, hit the equal button, and it should give you 2. That way you could double check your answer with the calculator. Now number 2 is interesting. It says find 3 consecutive integers with the sum of 45. Okay. Let's think about this. What does consecutive actually mean? If you go to the doctor's office and they tell you, hey, you need to take these pills, let's say you're sick, and they tell you you need to take these pills for 5 consecutive days. That means 5 days in a row, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You can't just do, I want to take this pill on Monday, I want to take this one on Thursday. Consecutive days means days right next to each other. So 3 consecutive integers, we're talking about 3 consecutive numbers that are right next to each other. Kind of like 4, 5, and 6. Or like 13, 14, and 15, or maybe like 49, 51, and 52. Those are all numbers that are right next to each other, right? I mean, you could even technically go with negatives since they say integers. It could be like -3, -2, and -1. Those are all right next to each other. But they want us to find 3 consecutive integers that have a sum of 45. Now the word sum, that means that you're going to add them up. So they're talking about 3 numbers, 1, 2, 3, that you're going to add up. And the answer should be 45. Okay. Now we just need to remember about these 3 numbers that have to be right next to each other. In other words, 1, 2, and 3. If I go 1 plus 2 plus 3, the answer will be 6. And that's definitely not 6, it's 45. So you could create an equation, but I know a lot of us are struggling with that. So let's think about the easiest way, guessing and checking. Now, since we have 3 numbers, let's think about kind of like dividing 45 by 3. That would be roughly about 15 or so, right? So if you tried 15, 16, and 17, would that do the job? Let's just see. Let's just try it out. 15, 16, and 17. Now, of course, you could do this on the calculator, and if you do it on the calculator, it'll be 48, which we know that it's too high. So maybe we need to drop it down a bit. Let's, instead of starting with 15, let's maybe start with like 14 or 13. Okay, so we're guessing and checking here. So 14 plus 15 is 29, and 29 plus 16 is 45. Okay, so that is the correct answer. 14, 15, and 16 are the three consecutive numbers. 14, 15, and 16. Those are the three consecutive numbers that add up to give you 45. Okay, so guessing and checking works great right here. You could also create an equation, but we'll hold off on that till the next section. Number 3, translate the following equation into a sentence. Okay, this one's kind of tricky because there's so many things right here, and there's different variables also. So let's start by using the word twice instead of 2 times, okay? And also, there's a certain word we haven't used much in class that we're going to use, especially because it pops out on the test, quantity, all right? So we're going to say twice the quantity, all right? Twice the quantity. That just means that we're going to multiply by something inside parentheses. So let's write that down. Twice the quantity. So twice the quantity, and what is inside here? We could say the difference of x and y. Let's just say x minus y. Twice the quantity of x minus y. So twice the quantity, let's zoom in a little so you can see it better. Twice the quantity, that's 2 times, the quantity of what? Of x minus y. Now what are we going to use for equals? We're going to say is. So let me put that is in green, all right? So this equal sign, we're going to write it in green. And what else do we have here? We have 7 more than b, or b increased by 7. I'm just going to say b plus 7. Keep it easy as possible. Is b plus 7. And there it is, guys. Once again, twice the quantity. That's saying 2 times something in parentheses. Twice the quantity, that's what it means. 2 times something in parentheses. Of what? What's inside of the parentheses? X minus y. There's x minus y. Okay. And then finally is the equal sign. B plus 7. B plus 7. So I hope you guys are cool with that. You're going to have to look at something like this and then select the appropriate sentence on multiple choice on the quiz tomorrow. Let's move on to number 4. On this one it says translate the following equation into a sentence. Same thing. And we're going to start, we can't say twice the quantity here, but let's see what we could use. We could say 9 times. So we have 9 times, and what are we multiplying by? Well, we are definitely adding 2 things here. So let's just start by first writing down 9 times. Now we already used the word 9, like the other one, twice the quantity. Right here, let's not say 9 times the quantity. Let's switch it up. A different word that we could use for the addition in there would be the sum. So let's write down 9 times, and let's switch the color here, the sum of what? What are we adding inside of the parentheses? We're adding y squared and x. So let's write down that. 9 times the sum of y squared and x. Okay. And then the equal sign, we're going to switch that to, let's say, red, is, and the 17, let's just, is 17. Let's put 17 right there. 17. Period. That's about it, guys. So once again, 9 times 9 times what? It's not 9 times 5, it's 9 times the sum. And what are we adding? We're adding y and x together. Okay, so the 9 times went in red right there, 9 times. Now we're talking about the sum of y squared and x. And of course, we went back to a red is, the equal sign, and then 17, we did that in black. So I hope this helps you do the correct selection on tomorrow's quiz. Let's move on to solving. We have two solving problems right here, two equations that we need to solve. One of them has a fraction, the other one does not. Remember this, guys, whenever you have a fraction, you could get rid of it by simply multiplying everything by the denominator. After all, you could do anything you want to an equation, right? You could get rid of anything on an equation as long as you do the opposite. So right here you have a 5 divided by 8. If you wanted to make this divided by 8 disappear, if you just wanted it to look like 5x, you could get rid of that divided by 8. And how do you get rid of the divided by 8? By doing the opposite, the inverse operation. So what is the inverse operation of division? It's multiplication. So let's put a multiplication dot. Let's put an 8 right there. And of course, what you do to one side of an equation, you must do to the other side of an equation. Let's multiply the 15 by 8 also. Okay, so the 8 that's on top divided by 8 on the bottom, that becomes 1. That's why we're able to cancel it out. We have a new nice equation, that 5x that we wanted at the beginning. That's what we have now. We got rid of that divided by 8. We have the equal sign. And let's multiply 15 times 8. We could say, and we could even do like 8 times 10 would be 80. And 8 times 5 would be 40. 80 plus 40 is 120. So 8 times 15 is 120. So we need one more step to get rid of that 5. It's not a plus 5. It's a 5 times x. So let's get rid of the multiplication by doing the inverse operation, which would be division. Now we do to one side, do to the other side. The 5's cancel out. And we end up with x equals. And that answer will be 24. So there are many questions that have whoops, that's messed up. There are many questions that have fractions in them. You could get rid of any fraction by multiplying everything by the denominator. I just put this one on here just for practice. It's easy. Get rid of the minus 7 first, plus 7. What you do to one side, you do to the other side to maintain the balance. The 2x comes down. The equal sign comes down. I don't know why I wrote 27. Sorry, there you go. 2x comes down. 19 plus 7, that's 26. And finally, you divide by 2 to get rid of that multiplication of 2. So x equals 13. If you wanted to double check it, take that 13, plug it back in there. Let me actually do this. Let's go 2 times 13. What is that? That's 26. And then after that, if you subtract 7, what do you get? You really do get 19. And that's the answer we have over here. So that's double checked. I know that that's a correct answer. So on this worksheet, which is homework, there are several questions that are more challenging because they have several different types of fractions in them, right? So like, let's take a look at number 8. This is probably the most challenging question there is on this whole worksheet because you have 3 different fractions. You know what? I think I'll do this problem a couple of different ways. One way is to get rid of one fraction at a time. So like, give me the first fraction you see.
3k over 4.
3k, okay, so if you say I want to get rid of this fraction 3k over 4, then you'd have to get rid of the fraction 3k over 4 by multiplying everything by what?
4.
By 4. So as you could see, this times 4, yeah, the 4 and the 4 cancel, but when you say this times 4, the 4 and the 3 do not cancel, and when you say this times 4, you can't really cancel the complete number 12 with 4, but you could reduce 4 over 12. Now, what do I mean by that? 4 over 12, 4 divided by 4 is 1, 12 divided by 4 is 3. So by multiplying everything by 4, yeah, the 4's gone. By multiplying everything by 4, you get rid of one fraction only, and let's rewrite the rest. So up here we have 4 times 2, which is 8, and it is over 3 because the 3 didn't cancel with the 4. And we have the plus sign that comes down. Now on this one, the 4's really did cancel out, so all I have left is a positive 3k, so plus 3k. The equal sign comes down, and on this last right side of the equation, it says 71 over, it's no longer 12, now it's just 3, but it is 71 over 3. So we still have a fraction there. So notice, you guys told me get rid of the divided by 4, and we did by multiplying everything by 4, but we still have these other 2 fractions to deal with.
Multiply by 3.
So we're going to multiply everything by 3. So if I multiply this by 3, this 3 by 3, and this by 3, yes, the 3 cancels with the 3, which means I'll have an 8 left over. The 3 times 3 is a 9. That's a positive 9. And of course, it has a k right there. The equal sign comes down. And this 3 and this 3 cancel out, so I have a 71. Okay? So that's not the easiest or best way of doing it, but if you understand it, that's great. Okay? You could get rid of one fraction at a time. And if you like, okay, if I want to get rid of this 2/3, all right, then multiply everything by 3. But we decided to get rid of this one, so we multiplied everything by 4. You could have decided to get rid of this one and multiply everything by what? 12. But we didn't. We decided to get rid of this one. But as you can see, you could get rid of one fraction at a time until you get an equation with no fractions. And then from there, it's all easy. You would just subtract 8. We'd have 9k equaling 71, take away 8. So we'd end up with 63 right there. And then, of course, we divide by 9 to get rid of that multiplication of 9. And we end up with k equaling 7. And that's our final answer for number 8. Now, there's another way of doing it. Let me just show you a different way. The same question, right? That way it might save you a little bit of time. It might make it a little easier for you. Let me rewrite it. So there's my equation rewritten. Okay, let me put a line here. We're going to do this again, but let me do it a little different way. Instead of multiplying by 4, instead of multiplying by 3, I want to look at the biggest number, and luckily the 12 is the LCD of 12, 4, and 3. So go for the biggest denominator because, check it out, when I multiply by 12, the 12 will cancel out. When I multiply by 12 here, the 12 and the 4 on the bottom, that'll cancel out because 12 divided by 4 is 3 left over up on top. And when I multiply by 12 right here, again, the 12 is divisible by 3. So by picking the largest common denominator here, you're able to get rid of all fractions at the same time. Let me show you. On the first fraction on the left side, 12 over 3 is what? 4. So the 12 divided by 3 is a 4. And 4 times 2 is 8, and there's no more fraction. On the middle fraction, 12 divided by 4 is what? 3. So when you multiply 3 times 3, we get 9, and that is a positive 9 with a k. The equal sign comes down, and of course the 12 over 12 is 1, so the 71 just comes straight down. And we have the same exact equation that we had right here. You see that? So it's just another way of doing it slightly quicker. You could get rid of one fraction at a time, like we got rid of the 4 by multiplying everything by 4, but then we had to get rid of the other fractions, the 3, by multiplying everything by 3. Right here, instead of picking the 4 or the 3, we picked the 12, the biggest common denominator of all 3 fractions, and multiplied it all by 12, and it got rid of all 3 fractions at the same time. Okay? So that might be better for you to use the LCD. But it's cool if you just say, oh, I want to get rid of this 3 first. Okay, multiply everything by 3. And you're still going to have fractions left over. Then you get rid of the other fractions by multiplying all the other terms by the other denominators. So it's totally up to you. There's many roads to the same place. It's all about what makes you feel more comfortable, what you know best. So if you don't like multiplying by the 12 everything, then go ahead and get rid of one at a time the way we did over here. But you're going to end up with the same answer, k equals 7. So one more thing, guys. I'm not going to explain this entire homework assignment. Why? Because I'm telling you, maybe I shouldn't tell you this, but this homework assignment is great practice, but the exact questions are not going to come out on the quiz tomorrow. Where are the exact questions coming from? From the WSP worksheets. Okay? So if you go back and review WSP 2.1, WSP 2.2, WSP 2.3, the homework we've had all week, from there, when we generate tests, the computer selects from those worksheets, not from this one. So this is great practice. I did attach the answers right on the back side, so you could check your answers as you go. But I'm not going to make a video of all of them because the actual questions that you should be studying are from the WSP worksheets. Good luck on tomorrow's quiz.